All right, welcome to Social Anxiety Solutions, your journey to social confidence. My name is Sebastian van der Schier, and I'm a former social anxiety disorder sufferer. And thanks to the help of energy psychology, tapping, and the help of some brilliant therapists, I've managed to get rid of my anxiety and be at ease socially and have a good time, being around others. And on this podcast, I interview coaches, psychotherapists, scientists, best-selling authors, healers, psychologists. And I happen to have another psychologist on my podcast today who's been a guest a couple of times. His name is Steve Wells, and we're going to be talking about his relatively new process or technique. Here's a bit about Steve before we get into that. And I'm going to be reading this. So Steve Wells is, as I said, a psychologist. He has trained to the highest levels in provocative therapy, has extensive training and experience in brief strategic therapy, and has been training counselors and therapists for over 2 decades. Together with Dr. David Lake, he also conducts personal development seminars and professional training workshops in advanced EFT, stands for emotional freedom techniques, and provocative energy techniques. He and Dr. Lake developed simple energy techniques, SET for short, and the unique advanced energy-based approach, provocative energy techniques. And another technique that we're going to be talking about today, and that technique is called intention-based energy process, or IEP, and it's also known as intention tapping. All right, welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Sebastian. Great to see you again.
Yeah, likewise.
I need to send you a new bio because we're not really teaching EFT anymore. We've been using our own simple approach that you mentioned, simple energy techniques, for a number of years. And I think the number of years I would have been training people is a lot more. But anyway, that'll do.
Exactly. I think it's significant enough. Yeah. Nice. What I was curious about to kick this off is maybe a little bit about what the technique is, and then how did you find out about it? Like, how did you discover it? How did it come about?
Okay, so what it is a way of using your own intention to release the emotional attachments that are causing your suffering, to change the way you feel, to take the emotional sting out of your problems, and restore the body to a flow state, which puts you into a place of being clear and grounded and calm, and also helps you to access your resources so that you can go forward with your confidence intact, So it's a fantastic technique, and it's very simple. I'm a very simple kind of guy, and even though I am trained in psychology, I like to say that I'm fully recovered. So this is a very practical technique and doesn't require much understanding of theory or any understanding of theory. You just really do it and use it. Obviously, if you want to learn to be a practitioner, there's a lot more involved, but for self-help, it's very simple and very surprisingly powerful, astoundingly powerful. Yeah.
That is also what I found, and I'm not even trained in it. I just, took the self-help route. I've been coaching for a long time, and, I don't even know where I heard about it. I don't think you taught it to me in person, so I picked it up somewhere in an interview or somewhere in a blog post, and I like just trying out things and seeing how you go, right? And I found that in coaching, it's quite important what you aim the particular technique that you're using at. And so I used it as kind of like a replacement for tapping sometimes, or just in just to see what would happen in a place where I usually would use tapping. And I found it very powerful, and sometimes a lot faster than tapping. And sometimes it surpasses resistance that you normally would have to go around, and you have to do all sorts of things, tapping, and this kind of just boom, it just moves through it very smoothly. It's quite amazing, and subtle but profound.
Oh yeah, and sometimes the shifts can be unsubtle, as in quite large and very surprising. So let me just say a couple of things about what you said. One is that yeah, it is a simple technique. It's easy to pick up, and people should be able to take it away and use it today and get some results with it.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are lots of distinctions I could give about how to, get better results and all that kind of stuff. But surprisingly, as you said, most techniques, it matters what you target. Well, with this, you don't even have to have the precise target, because what you're doing is you're putting something up to your unconscious mind, and your unconscious mind will reveal the best parts of the target to you progressively, rather than you having to be clever, rather than having to work out all the parts of your problem, having to define your own core issues or identify the events where you learn this, or all that stuff. It's just too hard. I feel tired just thinking about it. I needed to use my technique on that, and but this is what people learn, and this is what's required with most techniques. They also talk about being specific. Well, then you can get kind of hung up on, oh my God, I have to be really careful how I define my problem. I've got to get specific, whatever that means. And with this, you can start as general as you like, so you can start with, let's say, you have issues with your mother. You can just start with my mother as the issue. And then as you do it, you'll start to get in touch with the aspects of that are the real problem for you. Like what she said to you, or the way she treated you, or some incident that you have with her, it will kind of come up.
Yeah.
And so what it really is about is just doing it, and then trusting that your unconscious mind is going to help you to move through the process.
Yeah. And to add on to that, because I obviously used it quite a bunch, and also just for myself, just seeing and trying things out. And like you said, you can be very broad and general to kick things off. Like, all right, let's not be too creative here. Let's just, all right, I have this broad thing going on. Well, let's just aim this technique at it and see what happens. And then as I would do that, then naturally the more specific thing would come to mind, or naturally the next thing to focus on would come to mind. And it's quite elegant, if you will. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it's really, as I say, it's about understanding that there is an unconscious part of you that, the part that's looking after you right now, that's keeping your heart beating and all that kind of stuff, and just trusting that and allowing it. So this process is using specific intentions that act as commands for your unconscious mind to release your attachment to problems and people and events and all kinds of stuff that's upsetting you, and to restore the energy flow wherever it's disturbed in the body. Because when you have a problem, there's usually a body disturbance associated with that. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Before we get a bit deeper in it, and before I actually want to have my question answered about how you figured out about it.
I will get to that. Yeah. I thought I'd let you say something else.
No. I do want to kind of ask you, if someone is watching this and they're like, what the hell are you guys talking about? What I know is I should change my thoughts, and I should just, be mindful, and then face my fears, because that's the only way to overcome your problem, right? What are you talking about? Intention. What is intention anyway? And how's this supposed to help me? And how can I overcome my social anxiety using something weird like this? And what are you guys talking about? Like, how do we kind of bring it?
Well, let me give you, see, the answer to that person's question is all those things that they're talking about that they need to do, they have to actually have an intention to do them. So you might set your intention and say, right, I'm going to go out and I'm going to be confident. Well, good luck, because then up comes your fear, up comes your problem, You set your intention to go and, make millions of dollars, and then you confront all the issues and challenges of that for you. what this does is actually is a way of using intention as well that works. And it works because it's actually releasing stuff that's holding you back. And so it allows you to be able to move forward, to manifest those things and to take action on those things. Yeah, I don't know if I fully answered that question, but
yeah. So, for example, because the people that are watching this, they have social anxiety, and their intention or their goal or outcome is social confidence. So this is then a technique to deal with the roadblocks, however many there are, to step by step get rid of these roadblocks to, move towards that outcome. And
because you go to move towards what you want, and up comes your blocks. And the blocks come up in the form of negative thoughts and negative feelings. And it seems like the thoughts are creating the feelings. But in fact, what I've learned is that the thought isn't the problem. It's the emotion attached to the thought that's the problem. If you have that negative thought that says you can't do that, or you're not good enough, or whatever it is that's holding you back, and you don't have any emotion or any reaction in the body, that thought has no power over it. It can't stop you. So this is actually a way of releasing that emotion attached to those thoughts, which releases the emotion attached to going out into situations where you can improve your life and do what you want to do.
It's amazing. It's a powerful technique, and I'm just thinking where to go with this if I want to explain a bit more. So,
is it all right if I answer your other question? Because that might explain it a little bit.
Yeah.
Your other question was, how did you kind of discover this? Okay, so the way I discovered this was that I got this heel spur, right? And it was really painful, and I couldn't move without pain. It was just
what is
really.
What is it?
Heel spur. It's like it's like a extra bit of bone that attaches to the back of your heel, and then every time you step on it, it causes you pain, right?
Oh, okay.
Calcium gets deposited there or something. Anyway, it's really painful. Apart from the fact that I was held back by that, and I was having to spend lots of time sitting down, lying down, and not being able to move, I also felt like I wasn't really moving forward in my business. I wasn't, I had a book that I've been writing had been writing seemingly forever, and it hadn't got published, and all this stuff. So I was really frustrated, upset, annoyed, irritated, and all those things. So I started doing all the things that I knew to get through this. I was doing tapping, right? So I'm tapping on acupressure points, and we use a simple form of tapping, which is similar to EFT, but it doesn't involve some of the, the setup statements that EFT uses and all that stuff. So we're just essentially tapping on these points and then just following where the thoughts and feelings go. This process that we're going to talk about, you can do it with or without tapping. I like to do it with tapping because it works better. It's a beautiful integration that occurs. So I'm doing this tapping. I was also working through some processes by a guy named Robert Middleton, who's actually a marketing coach, and he's done a lot of stuff on non-duality and all that kind of stuff. And he's also into Byron Katie, who I really love her stuff. She wrote a book called Loving What Is, and she has a process she calls the work, where you look at the thoughts that are upsetting you, and you basically question whether they're true. And when you realize that the untruth of them, you're relieved from being hooked by them. And her process is very effective. Plus, I was using an approach called logosynthesis, which you've interviewed Willem Lammers on in this series. I was using PRE, a shaking technique designed to shake the tension and trauma out. I was just throwing everything at this thing,
Yeah.
And anyway, I got stimulated to pick up Byron Katie's book, and on one of those pages, this thing just jumped out at me, and it was this statement it's not the thought, it's the attachment to the thought that causes the suffering. And I had the realization, it's not the thought, it's the emotional attachments that causes suffering. So, you think the thought, about going out, let's say, and up comes the fear. Well, it's actually the emotion attached to that that's the problem, that's triggering the fear. And so when tapping works, you can have that thought about going out, and the fear that was attached to that thought, it just isn't there. Okay. So when tapping works, it releases the emotional attachments. And I thought, well, yeah, also the tapping restores the energy flow. And I just had this kind of question in my mind. If you can do it with tapping, can you do it with direct intention? So I just formed the specific intention. I focused on one of my problems. I can't even remember what the problem was. I focused on the problem and I simply formed the intention. I release all the emotional attachments, all my emotional attachments to this problem. And I felt instant release. And I mean, the first time it happened, I thought, oh, that can't be real, like I just talked myself into that, or, whatever. And so then I tried it on another part of the problem, and I focused on that, and, that thing that was upsetting me. And I said, I release all my emotional attachments to that. Same thing, a real palpable shift in how I was feeling. And then after I just started doing it on everything that was upsetting me, and it just like, boom, 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 just moving through this like, hot knife through butter. And then at one point, I felt this feeling in my chest. And, I was focusing on a problem, and I felt the feeling of it in my chest. It was really contracted. And I thought, yeah, okay. So when we focus on, when we have our problem, we have a disruption in energy in our body. We feel it somewhere as a disturbance. And I thought, well, when tapping works, it works by restoring the energy to flow. And then I thought, well, what if you could use intention on that? So I simply focused on this constriction in my chest, and I formed the intention, I restore the right energy flow to my chest. Expansion, deep breath, no more constriction. And I thought, well, this is ridiculous. This can't be real. Anyway, I just kept trying it, and everything I tried it on, it was working, except I noticed that second statement about restoring energy flow, that one didn't always work the first time. Also, sometimes I had to, and what I've now discovered is you have to release enough attachments, you have to release enough hooks to get access to be able to restore the energy flow. Right. Okay? Because the disturbance is caused by all the things that you're hooked by. See? And so, but sometimes you can just start with that. You notice a disturbance in the body, you just say, I restore the right energy flow to this area, and boom, there it is. Okay, so then I'm like, okay, this is crazy, and but it's working, and it's worked on everything I've tried it on. So I go to my wife, and she's used to this after all these years, and I said, I've been playing around with this new technique.
Willing victim, yeah.
Do you want to try it on something? And in the old days she would have said no, but now she's like, sure. And she tried it, and she felt it instantly. And then we did it again, and it worked again. And so now I'm starting to think, okay, not just me, but her. But then again, she's, connected to me, whatever. Next day, I'm talking on Skype, kind of like this, with a friend of mine. He's talking about an issue with a family member, and I could see he's really upset by this. And I said, mate, just try this sentence, this intention statement. And so he says, I release all my emotional attachments to this issue with this person. He says it was so palpable, the difference that he felt. And he was able to go and, deal with that situation, no problem, So now I'm thinking, okay, all right, that's 3 out of 3 of us. And let's start seeing what else happens, A few other people shared it with a couple of friends, started experimenting with clients. And now we're like 2.75 years down the track from when I made this discovery, and it's working consistently with all kinds of people from all over the world. I've discovered, a few extra statements, a few different ways of using it. It's not like there's only one way you can use intention to help yourself.
Right.
Willem Lammers has a whole approach different to mine, which is a similar type thing of using intention. Works very, very well. Dr. Larry Nims's approach, BSEP free fast, that has intention, but it just provides a long and fairly complex direction to your unconscious mind as part of the process, whereas my one is really simple, and
for lay people,
and to be able to remember it and use it, and they do,
Yeah, awesome.
So yeah. So
nice.
What is if you want to distill it, a couple of specific sentences which you use to target the problem, and these are intentions or commands to your unconscious mind. And I believe what happens is you give your unconscious mind this command, it just carries it out for you.
Yeah. It's amazing because you learn so much about the subconscious, and it's like, well, it's my subconscious that's the problem. Yeah, great, but how can I ever access that, or how can I ever deal with that? And what am I going to do? Am I going to do these affirmations forever? Am I going to visualize before I go to bed? How do I access it? Do I need to see a hypnotherapist, and is that going to work? And so there are actual techniques of how to communicate with the subconscious, and this is one of them. And it's and I'll tell you what, this is very different to some of those other things, because making an affirmation is an attempt to create a specific intention, or to give your unconscious mind or your subconscious mind a direction to take you in a direction or whatever. The challenge is that it often encounters resistance. And I believe why that happens is because with those things, you're trying to create an attachment. And those things knock up against the attachments that you already have. Yep. So you're trying to say, I go out and I'm really confident. And then your mind goes, no, right. This is the reality. You go out and you... Exactly.
And this is not about creating an attachment over the top of something else, which is a disturbance. It's actually about releasing the stuff that's getting in your way so that you can go forward and do what you want. And I believe it's kind of like unclogging yourself so that your natural energy can shine forth and flow.
Yeah. Amen.
Then when you set intentions, you're able to go for them because there's nothing holding you back, and it's in alignment with the direction that your energy is flowing. It's aligned up with your underlying values and purpose and all that stuff that's meaningful to you.
Yeah It's great. How to formulate the next question. When people already know tapping, by the way, if you're watching this, you don't even know what that is. It's a psychological form of acupuncture, stuff with the needles, but instead of using needles, like Steve kind of demonstrated earlier, it taps on certain acupressure points in the body. And what that does is kind of disconnects the emotion from the problem that you're thinking about. And studies have shown that the tapping sends a little signal to the part of your brain called the amygdala, which regulates your hormones, and it decreases the production of cortisol, stress hormone, and it increases the production of serotonin, your happy hormone. These biochemical responses create a sense of calm. So you think about something that's upsetting you, you do the tapping, and that upset is starting to calm down. You kind of bring yourself back to emotional balance. In my experience, something similar happens with Steve's technique, just sometimes faster and sometimes easier. And
the other thing is you combine this technique with tapping, you get the best of both worlds. So you have a beautiful relaxation, a beautiful balancing, and a beautiful harmonizing effect from the tapping. And that works with this process. And so you can move through the different aspects, because some problems have lots of parts to them and there's lots of aspects to work through to be able to be completely free.
Right.
And this just helps you to move through aspects much more quickly.
Exactly. It's also the reason why we're doing this interview, because social anxiety is one of these problems that just has a lot of, hooks and corners and crannies and aspects to it. So I think this is going to be a great addition to people's toolbox. So
well, I want to say something here, Sebastian, because I know a lot about anxiety because I've had anxiety my whole life. And I realize now, looking back, that I probably got drawn into psychology because I thought that would help me, and some things did and some things didn't, but nothing really ever helped me like tapping did. That was when things started to really, really shift for me. I had some other things that really worked for me, like provocative therapy with Frank Farrelly, that just completely blew me away. And, that was probably more help with my not feeling accepted, not feeling loved kind of issues. And the tapping has helped me with anxiety, really, really helped me. And then even with tapping, it wasn't until I got enough of it happening that I started to really get some things to shift. So, some things improved right away, and other things, it didn't seem to matter how many times I tapped, it just wouldn't help me. And then when I got enough in my system where I realized I got to do it on a regular basis, it's like going to the gym. And so we call this energy toning. If your stress level, your regular anxiety level is up here and your confidence and life energy is here, you've got to bring your set point down by doing it enough. Otherwise it kind of slips back. You're good today, but tomorrow you're back again, anxious where you were before. So we now believe, Dr. David Lake and I, that a certain amount of doing this on a regular basis will tune and tone your energy system so that it tones down your anxious, stressed, worrisome energies, and tunes and tones up your life energy, confidence, optimism, all that kind of stuff. And when you're like this, your negative thoughts seem real and they hook you in. And when you're like this, you can have the same thought, it just doesn't affect you.
Yeah. Thanks for repeating that. And now they know for sure that those were not my words, because I've pretty much copied exactly that. Well, I've told them it comes from you guys, but yeah, exactly. That's the experience as well. When I first went to you guys' workshop, 4 or 5 years ago, that was one of the things that I walked away with as well. It's like, you need to get enough tapping into your system. And, just the stimulation of these acupressure points for an hour a day, 15 minutes here, 10 minutes there, that in and of itself is going to make a difference. And a lot of people are not doing enough tapping. And they're like, oh, I don't exactly know how to do it. So I'm really trying to simplify things for people. I've also introduced them to SCT.
Well, this is also because some of the BS in the field, and I'm referring to belief systems, that everybody holds, which is also a fair amount of BS, is the assumption is that every problem, if you find the kind of linchpin and you release that, but lo and behold, you've had this problem your whole life, but it's no more problem, and that can happen with a specific phobia, and it can happen with some things that don't have many aspects to them. But when you've got something, with this many aspects, this pervasive, there's lots of things to release. And so there's 2 ways to use tapping, and there's also, with the intention process, you can use that in the same way, but it's basically so many times you get hooked during a day, you can just release those hooks. And you can do that specifically. But if you just tap and just bring down your stress and bring up your good chemicals and your good brain waves and your good energy, then, hey, you're going to be in a good space most of the time. And just like going to the gym, you keep it up and you end up with an emotional fitness, and you're much better able to meet the challenges that come up.
Excellent. Let me see. So how can we give people a little introduction to it today?
Well, first of all, we can talk about what it is, but it's good if you want to do an example. If you want to.
Let's do it.
Okay. So first of all, the two main statements, the two main intention statements are, number one, I release all my emotional attachments to this problem. You want me to, I got this on a slide if you want. I can share a slide. Would that be okay?
In screen?
And that way, oh, hang on. I need to come back to the screen to be able to do that. So I can share this on a slide. Would that help?
Please, yeah.
Okay.
More technical than me, Steve.
So here are the core intention statements in this process, which I call IEP, intention-based energy process, aka intention tapping when you combine it with tapping. Okay. So you can make these statements with or without tapping. The first one is, I release all my emotional attachments to whatever is the problem, whatever is upsetting you, whatever is disturbing you. It could be a problem, could be an event, could be an image, could be a belief that is affecting you, could be a thought that you're upset by, could be a person, whatever it is. I release all my emotional attachments to blam, X. And then whenever you have a disturbance in your body, I restore the right energy flow to Y, the body area. So I restore the right energy flow to my chest. I restore the right energy flow to my stomach. I restore the right energy flow to my throat, wherever you feel that there's a disturbance. And of course, just like for those who do know tapping, you may have to apply this to lots of different things. So you just keep applying it to whatever comes next. You start with the problem, and the problem is going to be, a thought or a feeling. If it's a thought, then you can say, I release all my emotional attachments to this thought. If it's a feeling, you can say, I restore the right energy flow to this area in the body that's disturbed. And so that's it. That's 95% of the process right there. And those two core statements are going to do most of the work in this. As I say, there are other things that I've developed, and people who want to look at those, they can go and look at some of my webinars and other programs where I go in more depth. But you would be surprised, listener or watcher. You just go away and try those statements on a whole bunch of things, and then just notice what happens. The key is to have something that's upsetting you, focus on it, use the statement, and then just let it work and wait and see what happens. And you can watch this when I do it with people, and you can go and look at some of the webinars and stuff where I've coached people, and you'll see they'll
quickly. Where would they see that? Where would they be?
Okay, so main place is EFTdownunder.com. So EFTdownunder.com. EFT is the main tapping approach, and so we have a lot of information on that website about EFT, our SET, and now about IEP. And the most recent stuff is on the blog. So if they go to the blog, they'll find that there's recordings of webinars. They can watch through those. They'll see me coaching people using this approach, and they can try it out. And so you'll see when I say, have someone say, I release all my emotional attachments to this problem, and they invariably go, and that can happen sometimes instantly. Sometimes it happens after 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. But it does happen when you apply it to a target, usually, which is upsetting you.
Right. And it's not the magic of Steve's voice.
Oh, no. No.
Yeah.
I know, because I've got practitioners groups, and I have people like the other day, I got a couple of people to work with each other. This is a lady who was in this group who'd been up with me in Manchester at my workshop there, and she was using it with people. I thought, wow, she's doing a better job with this than I would be doing right now. And I said, you've had such great fidelity to the method, which is just wait to let the response happen in the person and then follow what comes next, But we're talking today about self-help, and most people are going to be very surprised. I just say, when you learn it, just use it like buckshot on everything that's upsetting you, And sometimes you're going to notice some really incredible shifts.
Yeah. And the beauty of this is that it's very hard to do this wrong. And there's not much that can actually go wrong, or anything that can go wrong. So you're just saying a statement to yourself. You're focusing on a particular feeling that you have or a thought that you have that is upsetting you. You just aim the statement at it. You say the statement, then you wait and see what happens, and that's it. And then you just focus on the next thing that comes up. You aim the statement at that, and you just go at it like that. It's very simple.
Yes. And my preferred way, though, is to do it while tapping on these acupressure points.
Right,
okay.
right, yeah.
So then you're combining the body harmonizing effect of tapping with this process. And sometimes, for example, you know, you've got, let's say you've got a feeling in your chest, you don't know what's causing it. And so you can say, I restore the right energy flow to my chest, and it may not be going very far, but if you're doing the tapping will also be starting to help that feeling to move in the process. And so it's the best of both worlds. You're using two techniques that work really well together.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. What else did I want to say? Oh, yeah. So, yeah. Up until now, are we still internet?
Yeah, you just froze for a second.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so up until now, the demonstrations that I have done have just been tapping, because I kind of wanted to wait until I interviewed the master of the technique. But I've been using it with my clients for, I think, over a year, so I'm quite well versed in it. So with the upcoming live webinars in our community, I'll be using it, and you'll be seeing some demonstrations of it there also. So just wanted to throw that out there. Yeah, I think that was quite a bunch.
Well, do you want to show them what to do on something like I mentioned before? If you want to, we can. Or sometimes it's
going to be a bit creative.
Like watching, you know, they can certainly go to my website and watch the coaching demonstrations there. That's fine. It's, you know, either way.
Yeah. Okay. The only thing is I just don't have to quickly find something that's bothering me. I'm in quite a jolly mood. But let's see.
I'll just suggest something for you if you like. So, you know, we say if you're going to discover your unconscious blocks, the best way is to think of a big goal, and then your blocks will come up, because the minute you set a goal which is a challenge to you, your unconscious blocks will start to come to the surface. And so you can think of that and notice what comes up. The other thing is to think about what irritates you about other people, because that represents a block to you. And the other one, of course, as you know, is to get into a relationship, which is usually an issue for someone with, you know, social anxieties, the issues of relationships. But yeah.
Okay, now we got one then.
Okay.
Yeah. Just reminding me. I'm talking to David tomorrow. I'm just remembering what I've written down. Yeah.
Okay.
No, like
this is Dr. David Lake. For those of you who don't know, yeah.
Right.
And I know you've been doing some supervision and mentoring, getting some mentoring.
Lots of it. Yeah. No, writing down the things that irritate me about other people. I had a frisbee tournament this weekend in Jakarta, and you know, at the end of that, you have to stand in. So you play a game, and at the end of that, you have to stand in a circle, and then you all kind of hold hands, group together, and then the leaders of each team start to compliment the other team, like, "Oh, you guys, you know, you did a really great job," and like that makes me cringe. So that,
yeah, it's like kind of false positive, or, you know, gushy positive, like that.
And just like, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And I feel that I have a reaction to that.
Okay, so so when you just notice that you have a reaction, and then the reaction is either in form of a thought that says, "Oh, that's just, you know, stupid or whatever it is,
Yeah.
or it's a feeling in the body. What do you notice?
No, it's actually a bit of a feeling of disgust, like, and or like they do a little yell, and I mean that's probably a Dutch word. I'm not sure if that's an English word as well, but you like, you know, yeah, higher, higher, rings of fire, like that kind of stuff, right? Yeah.
Okay, but you can even just focus on the thing itself, because the thing itself hooks you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you just tap, and you can just say, I release all my emotional attachments.
Yeah, it's a feeling of disgust. That's pretty much it. Not super strong.
But actually, the thing that's triggering the feeling of disgust is the higher, higher ring of fire kind of thing, right?
Right.
So
Right.
you could just say, I release all my emotional attachments
I release all my emotional attachments
to higher, higher ring of fire.
to higher, higher ring of fire.
And then just let that percolate for a minute and just notice what happens.
It kind of softens things.
Okay. And so, of course, you know, if you were just doing the tapping might also soften things.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, we can't say that one is working different to the other. But as you know, you've used this without the tapping,
Right.
and it can have the same kind of effect, you know?
Yes.
All right. So yeah, when you have that, it's kind of a harsh reaction that happens inside you.
Right.
And that's the challenge with anything like this. You have the reaction and you're the one who suffers it.
Yeah.
Everyone else is just doing what they do, you know?
Yeah.
They're
Sure.
still into their thing and you're suffering.
Yeah, exactly. They're going at it full force. And I'm like, do I have to participate with this? Yeah.
Okay, so just say, I release all my emotional attachments
I release all my emotional attachments
to, do I have to participate with this?
to, do I have to participate with this?
So I guess whatever thought's there, you can just put that into this thing and then just let it go wherever it goes and just notice what comes next.
Yeah, so this time I noticed that I kind of took a deep breath, even before the less obvious one that you just heard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if you didn't say it, you know,
Yeah.
I noticed that was kind of a soft deep breath, and then you took a deep
Yeah.
breath kind of thing.
Yeah.
More clearing kind of thing. Yeah.
Mm.
So this is, anybody who can observe that will notice that if they just pay attention, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So yeah, so you're there, you're cringing, they're doing their thing, you know, you're thinking, do I have to participate with this, you know? What else are you thinking that might be, you know?
Like overly fake losers.
Okay. All right. Beautiful. Okay. So just say, I release all my emotional attachments
I release all my emotional attachments
to these overly fake losers
to these overly fake losers
and their stupid games.
and their stupid
Whatever
spirit
it is.
circle. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And just let that do whatever it does. And just notice, because what happens is one aspect is there, and then as that kind of fades away or moves, something else might come up. It might be a feeling in the body, it might be another thought, another memory, another image, whatever.
Yeah.
Just notice.
Well, when I just started out with tapping, like, you know, more than a decade ago, I had difficulties tuning into my emotions and I could hardly read them. Let's say 10 years of intensive therapy and self-help and you know, a fortune on healing later, I'm very sensitive to it now, so I can really sense what's happening very well. So I noticed that my body was relaxing. I was taking a breath in the warm. There was kind of warmth starting to move through like my underarms, and a softening, kind of like more warm glow start to happen. And it's also, maybe even for someone who's quite aware of subtleties, even my state is different. I'm more calm. coming across more
If
present.
there is, usually when people do this, they start with the thoughts or the things that are upsetting them, and then they start to tune into their body. That's what I've noticed. And so if you've noticed, okay, you've noticed that it's calmer, is there somewhere that it's still feeling a bit disturbed or contracted, or, you know?
My lower arms, yeah, but like the half of my lower arms. So from
Okay.
yeah,
Yep.
so
So
that's
whatever
a
it
common
is,
thing. Yeah, I have that a
just
lot.
say, I restore the right energy flow
I restore the right energy flow
to my arms.
to my arms.
And then just let that do whatever it does, and just notice. And the feeling is either going to be the same or it's going to be different. It could be the same.
Yeah,
It's okay.
there's nothing noticeable other than maybe a little bit of a, how do I call that? Like a sprinkly sensation, or like a tantalizing sensation at the location, though it still feels very similar.
Okay, all right. So this is what I mentioned about this second one. So sometimes people are going to do this second one and they're not going to notice much of a shift. In that case, just go back to all the things that are upsetting you about the problem and do some more work on that, and then notice what happens. Okay, right. But it's good to throw that one in if you're ever aware of something in the body, because sometimes it just clears it straight away. You know.
And to add on to that, this is also not something that came up just by talking about this thing, because this thing that I brought up is a non-issue in my life. Like, you know, it doesn't really bother me that much. And the arm issue, or like the feeling the stress in my lower arm, is something that's there frequently. So it might very well not be related, right?
Well, yeah, and it may be there's many aspects that are contributing to that feeling in the arm, because this is an area where your problems kind of locate themselves in your body, or where the disturbance happens for you for whatever reason. You know, it could be for someone else, it could be their chest. Like I quite often notice it's a chest constriction, a stomach problem, a throat. You know, like I worked with a guy just this morning here, and it's always a throat for him. And when he has the release, he starts burping and, you know, sighing and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I had that too. Actually, my second client ever was a massive bodybuilder, and he would burp after every single round of tapping, and not just like a little burp, like long ass, you know, 7-second long burp. It was amazing.
That's good release, you know.
Yeah, it's a clear sign. You don't have to guess, at least.
So that might be kind of, that problem is like all that problem is kind of leading you into a bigger program of things that trigger you, upset you, disturb you, irritate you, whatever, you know.
Nice. I think that's quite a good example for people. Steve, would you?
I think it's enough, because you know, and they can go online if they want to see me working more in depth with people for longer and with lots of different types of issues and stuff. But anyone who's observant enough would have seen you kind of, you know, when you said, you know, you took the 2 deep breaths, first thing I noticed was kind of a kind of lowering and kind of like the letting down of a bit of tension, as well as the breath. You know, it was a much more gentle, soft thing.
Yeah, also my experience. All right, well, if there is anything I didn't ask you about this process that I could have asked you that would have allowed you to share something important about it, then what would I have asked you, and what would your answer be?
Okay, well, one question is, what do people do now? And my suggestion would be that they just go out and try it on everything, just like Gary Craig used to suggest with the EFT. Okay, I don't recommend you try it on physical conditions without getting those diagnosed and, you know, and engaging with the right kind of physical treatments. But emotional stuff, just try it on everything that's triggering you, and you might be surprised. And like I say to beginners, just do it like buckshot. You know, buckshot, kind of shoot everything, And then some things it's going to land and you'll go, wow, just hit the target there, you know?
Yeah.
And don't think you have to be clever with it. So all you have to know is that you have a problem and then just try it on that problem. And here's the thing, trust what comes next, because what happens is, you know, someone says, oh, I release all my emotional attachments to my mother. And then they have this kind of memory of, you know, when their mother told them off, and they go, okay, I release all my emotional attachments to that. Then they have something which seems to have nothing to do with it, you know, like when they were 5 with one of their friends, and their logical mind goes, that's not the issue. But actually, it's in the same emotional basket. So just take what comes from your unconscious and then apply this to that next. And you just keep following what comes up, and you can be really surprised where you can end up.
Yeah. When a client of mine says, well, I have this thing come up for me, but it doesn't seem to be related to what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we're going somewhere. Oh, that's
Exactly.
often the jackpot. So, you know,
Yeah.
good.
So the other question is, how do they do more? And that is that they can go to the website eftdownunder.com, look on the blog. Also, I have another website, the Energy of Success Academy. I might send you the link to that as well. And of course, I'm traveling around different parts of the world, you know, heading to Italy in a couple of weeks, actually. Next February, be up in Belgium again. Next April, heading up to Toronto. So, and probably we'll do something in the US while up there as well. And then later next year, heading back to the UK. So, lots of different ways. Also, people in Australia, you know, I come to Melbourne every year, to Sydney every year, do something in Perth where I live every year. So there's plenty of ways to connect up with the program, and lots of them we're doing like this now. I'm working with people, you know, I've got some groups running, and we take them through the process in my book, 100% Yes, which I got written doing this thing. Like,
it's bloody
literally,
process.
it's funny business, because before that, I said to my friend, I just couldn't get it finished. And I said, I'm about 80% yes, you know, on 100% yes. And, you know, I was doing all these workshops on 100% yes. I just couldn't get the book finished. And this just allowed me to apply it to what was holding me back from finishing it. The thing got done. And now I incorporate this in that process. And it's really powerful.
Yeah. Awesome. Just wanted to say a quick thing. If you get a chance to actually go to one of these workshops that Steve does, go do it. It's really awesome. I've been to maybe 7 or 8 of them, and it's a combination probably of all of his techniques. But one of the things is as well, it's provocative energy therapy. I'll talk for you for a second, but it's a combination of provocative therapy and tapping, and they call people to the front, and they'll do one-on-one sessions. And everyone in the group observes and taps along, a little bit like the live webinars that we're doing, actually. I'm just a beginner at this compared to these guys who've been doing it for decades and decades. And it's hilarious, it's fun, and it's highly transformational. It's 2 or 3 days, and after those 2 or 3 days, you come out a different person, and things will shift around for you. So, I highly recommend you check that out.
Well, that's the difference of incorporating the energy techniques. Is that you don't just get a like rah 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 feeling which just goes away. You actually get some internal shifts, so that things that used to be problems, they're not problems anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We like to have a bit of rah 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 as well, but it's actually more fun. And most people who are doing therapy type stuff or counseling stuff or coaching stuff, there's just not enough fun in it. So the provocative approach really puts a lot of fun in that. And I incorporate this intention-based energy process, of the intention tapping, with that. And there's also ways of doing it in more fun ways and more provocatively as well,
Yeah, cool. And I reckon that they can find out about where you're going, when you're going, and all the details on the EFT Down Under as well.
yeah, EFTdownunder.com. Just look under events, and what we're doing is going to be on there. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, Steve, thanks mucho. This was great. Really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll talk soon.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah.
Always great to connect with you.
All right. Hope you enjoyed that interview, and you can subscribe to the podcast to get a ton more of amazing podcasts with PhDs, doctors, myself. I'm not a doctor, but you know, podcasts with me. Psychologists, best-selling authors, researchers, amazing podcasts. Go check them out from the start. You know, there are some incredible interviews there. I think the first 60 podcasts are all interviews. They're really amazing. And subscribe so you can get the podcast every week. All right, you can do that by clicking below this video or by going to iTunes, typing in Social Anxiety Solutions, and subscribing there. All right, bye for now.